From ancient druid curses to extreme sibling rivalry, there are actually numerous explanations for Michael Meyers' insatiable thirst for blood. When he co-wrote the seminal slasher Halloween with producer Deborah Hill, John Carpenter didn't intend to keep Michael Meyers' coverall-covered corpse coming back for sequel after sequel in a sort of box-office necromancy. In the industry chronicle Shock Value, the famously blunt Carpenter is quoted saying, "They want me to do the same movie again. No, there's no more story. Sorry, it's over. It was over when I finished with the first one. There's nothing left to say. Michael goes away and he comes back and kills someone. Oh, please, stop.
We don't want to do that. Sequels suck. No, come on, man.
The first and most popular film in the entire series, in his defense, is pretty contained. Following his escape from a sanitarium, Meyers returns to the place where he killed his sister years before and glimpses Laurie Strode, who reminds him of said slain sister, Judith. For the rest of the movie, he stalks her and her friends, dispatching them one by one until Laurie, the only one to stab him back, is saved by Dr. Loomis, the beleaguered Ahab to Meyers' white whale.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
But the thing about evil is that it doesn't die, especially when there are sequels and tie-ins to be made. That's the reason for so many horror franchises that build upon a wildly successful original. The Wes Craven, Kevin Williamson-spawned Scream movies recently enjoyed the 5th entry and are gearing up for a 6th round with the Ghostface du jour. And a new 11th Hellraiser conjures up sadism and style with a rebooted adaptation of Clive Barker's novella The Hellbound Heart. This isn't a cynical take. Imitation is one of the horror genre's longest-running traditions, and sometimes its stories can evolve for the better. Tie-in movie novelizations enjoy a special creative place, both beholden to the major events of the film they extend from and free to play fast and loose with backstory. In Curtis Richards' 1979 novelization of Carpenter's smash hit, Michael is presented as a cog in a long-running mechanism of the holiday spirit itself. The prologue begins the Myers-Strode saga centuries before 1978 on a foggy Irish night, the eve of the druid festival Samhain, from whence so many Halloween traditions came. Richards describes the daughter of a druid king and the deformed young man who slaughtered her and her betrothed when she rejected the teen's advance. At the grieving king's request, a shaman cursed the murderer to, quote, roam the earth till the end of time, reliving thy foul deed and thy foul punishment. Samhain mutated over time by early Christian influence, a shell of the once spiritually reverent celebration that it was. Richards goes on to write, except that from time to time, the innocent frolic of All Hallow Eve was shattered by some brutal and inexplicable crime, and the original holiday spirit of the celebration was brought home to a horrified world. That societal disruption, Richards writes, was passed down from village to village, clan to clan, and made its way into the Myers family. Michael's mother and grandmother talk in hushed tones about young Michael's issues, late-stage bedwetting, fights at school and at home, and influential voices in his head. These voices might be hereditary. Grandma cites a Grandpa Nordstrom who also heard voices and acted upon them with tragic results. It's little hinted at in the movie, but in the book, Michael is a pawn in an ancient game. Halloween 2 began a series of complicated explanations for Michael's evil and his obsession with specific targets like Laurie, usually leaving fans with more questions than answers. In Rick Rosenthal's 1981 follow-up, Laurie Strode struggles to know why she was targeted, and the answer, according to Carpenter and Hill's script, is that she is actually his biological sister. That's why Michael followed her to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. He was repeating history. In Murray Leeder's study of Halloween, Carpenter describes the sibling revelation as, quote, a function of having decided to become involved in the sequel to the movie where I didn't think there was really much of a story left. What was once an unknowable abomination, nearly eldritch in its impenetrability, now began to take on the features of something more mortal, a monster that could be understood. Carpenter has been vocal about his disdain for Rosenthal's follow-up and the sibling backstory he co-wrote, but the family connection went on to act as motivational source material for the next several sequels. The family ties would be severed with David Gordon Green's 2018 installment, Halloween, which shouldn't be confused with the original Carpenter film, Halloween. Nor should that be mixed up with Halloween, Rob Zombie's 2007 remake of the 1978 film. Green's version of Halloween discarded that canon as well as all of the 1988 through 1995 explanations like a psychic mute niece, magic runes, an incest baby, and Paul Rudd. He hung on to the sequel canon but ultimately decided that the randomness of the killings gave them more power. Michael went up in flames by the time Mr. Sandman began playing over the end credits, so the next Halloween story would have to get creative.
Wasn't it her brother who cold-blooded mutilated all those teenagers?
No, that's just a bit that some people made up to make him feel better, I think.
The return of Michael Meyers is the first of the Thorn Trilogy, so named for the ancient curse that pulls the killer's strings. During a sanitarium transfer, Meyers awakens from a coma with that old autumn urge to terrorize a girl. Upon hearing that Laurie Strode had a daughter, the Titan cuts through a swath of victims to get to her.
What are you, deaf? Don't try that Halloween with me.
When their hands touch, some of that classic Samhain spirit rubs off on young Jamie, who is in turn compelled to do some bloodletting of her own. Alan B. McElroy's script was a rush job. Due to the impending 1988 Writers Guild of America strike, McElroy had 11 days to pitch, write, and submit a finished draft. The story kills off Laurie Strode without fanfare and gives Meyers a new family member to hunt down as he did in Halloween 2. Jamie shares a psychic connection with her uncle, whom she has frequent nightmares about, until they finally meet face-to-face. In Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Meyers, released just a year after the fourth film, Jamie's nightmares give way to seizures and traumatic muteness. Loomis has the bright, unethical idea of using the girl as a sort of homing beacon to draw the killer near, and it works. But killing him isn't so easy. What 5 begins, the curse of Michael Meyers would see through to its conclusion. A mysterious man in black turns out to be a steward for Michael, getting him out of jams and enabling him to eliminate his bloodline on behalf of a druid cult that controls him with magic runes, causing weary fans everywhere to wonder aloud why he can't simply be a psychotic man with a knife. The rest of the Halloween movies keep things relatively simple. Halloween H2O brings back fan favorite Jamie Lee Curtis to reprise her role as Laurie Strode. References to Meyers' telepathic niece Jamie are discarded, as well as the thorny lore of the previous entries. The death of Donald Pleasance in 1995 ended the run of Dr. Loomis, until Malcolm McDowell stepped into the character's shoes for Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Behind these eyes, one finds only blackness.
Ultimately, subsequent movies didn't need anyone to expound on what filmmakers and fans wanted. An unstoppable killing machine who didn't need to be pathologized. Meyers kills in H2O because he found out Laurie is alive and came looking for the one that got away, resulting in their first face-to-face reunion in 20 years. 4 years later, he would kill again in the franchise's most diminished return, Halloween Resurrection, because a bunch of vloggers were traipsing around in his childhood home. Rob Zombie's vision of Meyers struck close to the brute created by Carpenter and Hill, with McDowell's Loomis categorizing him thusly: inside every one of us, there exists a dark side. Most people rise above it, but some are consumed by it, until there is nothing left but pure evil. For Zombie in the aughts and David Gordon Green from 2018 to present, the slasher icon has no sibling connection, no sinister cabal commanding him, nothing but the blackest eyes behind that deteriorating white mask. Like a doll's eyes, the original Loomis would say. As fun as those middle sequels can be, there's something singular and terrifying about a great white shark of a killer who never eats, never sleeps, and never stops until his blade meets as much flesh as possible.